Thank you, Ashley, for agreeing to do this. I am going to read a short little bit from the chapter called Softness. And to give you a little background for it, I open it talking about Serena Williams and how people say that she looks like a man while also telling her to cover up her tits and ass because she is so tempting to look at. And so those two things don't make sense, right? So using that, I kind of talk about my own way of trying to figure out how I want to express my femininity in a world that tells me there's only one way to look like a woman. I knew what I wanted: to hide away from judging eyes, to reject the expectations of what a woman had to look like to be respected, while being soft and naughty and femme underneath it all for me and mine, but mostly for me. As much as I loved Prince, I could never pull off androgyny like he did. And I didn't want to appear androgynous, but I did draw on his attitude of doing what suited him, fuck everybody else. After years of being assessed and found lacking somehow, I decided I would please myself. I knew I'd never be fashionable enough or shaped right or properly dressed, so I began to pay attention to the parts of me that only those granted intimacy, that only those granted intimacy would know. I resented people trying to be the authority on my body. A quick scan and they think they know you. Beneath Serena's tennis skirts, she is a Disney princess. Beneath my all black attire, beneath a t-shirt and jeans, I wear the sheerest, sexiest underwear I can find. I've never really cared for perfume, but I rub scented lotion into my thighs so that every time I go to the bathroom, I smell the extra sweetness of me and want to kiss my damn self. While my sister played in makeup as a child, I played in my mother's scented lotions. Today, I exfoliate my skin with loofahs to make it as soft as possible. I also use shower gloves and body scrubs. My mother and sister tease me about how greasy I am because I keep my body so well moisturized. I will definitely leave cocoa and mango butter handprints on every slick surface. Someone out there will try to tell me I shouldn't do so much to my skin, but please keep that crunchy skin nonsense to yourself. In my late 30s, I was diagnosed with some kind of adult onset eczema due to stress. I really hated my job at the time. Not to be too dramatic about it, but I cried. Patches of dry, bruised-looking skin decorated my arms, thighs, and cheeks. My skin, my secret weapon of mass femininity, was betraying me. It was the thing I always answered when anyone asked, "What do you like most about your body?" When I'm getting to know someone on a dating app, I like to ask what their favorite compliment is that they've ever received from an ex. Sometimes they say something sweet but boring like, "I'm good at making them laugh." Sometimes they say what they think I want to hear. "I was the first person to make her come." Sure, dude. Whatever they answer, they send the question back to me and I say, "Well, I'll tell you my second favorite." I won't tell them my top compliment because I don't want them to regurgitate it. The best thing, my most favorite compliment, is to tell me how soft my skin is, but I want it to be organic. I want to surprise a lover with how much he wants to keep touching me. It doesn't matter how strict the French Tennis Federation makes its dress code, Serena still wins. Just like it doesn't matter what kind of clothes I wear or how bold my mouth is, I'm still a woman. I've been too skinny and too fat. I don't spend enough on my clothes and they don't flatter me. I should wear a belt with jeans, even though it irritates me, to make it look like I have a waist. Or I should wear a dress, not too short, not too long, so everyone knows I'm a lady. But when you touch me, when you feel the care I put into my skin, all the noise about my appearance fades away. I am something you want to melt into. I am a soft thing. Everyone wants to take care of soft things. Thank you.
Girl, okay, let me get myself together. I was listening and I was like, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, girl, you got a part. You got something to do. First of all, this is amazing.
Thank
This is
you.
so, so amazing. I am lucky enough to have gotten an early copy to read, obviously, and I was blown away by it. Like I've been talking about it as much as I can, wherever I can, because I love this collection of essays, not just as a person who likes and cares for you, but as a person who really likes essays. That's the first thing I started writing out in the world, and the thing that I've loved reading the most. And I trucked through this collection, excited for you and excited for me because it's that good. So, the first thing I wanted to ask you about is that I know, not just from reading the collection, but also from conversations I've heard you have before, things I've heard you write about before, that when it comes to your career and particularly your writing career, like there's a lot of emotion bound up in that for you, as it would be for any artist. But it's been a long road. You feel like it's been a very long road to this place, to like having this collection of essays out. How does it feel on this day to be a published author of this book?
For a while, I was really kind of numb, and I was scared. I was very anxious about being numb because so many people were asking me, "How are you feeling? Are you what? Are you And they, a lot of people were really excited for me, which I appreciated. But I felt like I wasn't having the reaction people wanted me to have, and it wasn't that I felt entitled to whatever was happening. It wasn't that. It was just I really when I get overwhelmed, I just kind of shut down or I just go blank. But today I looked up on Nashville's public library catalog, and I looked to see if they had, stocked my book. And then I checked my neighborhood branch, Bordeaux, and someone had checked it out already. And then I called my mom and I cried. And that's when it all hit me, because it's like that's how I got started with my love of writing, was through Nashville Public Library and going to the library. It wasn't necessarily this particular branch. I would actually, my mom took us to Hadley Park Library in North Nashville, which is right in the center of Tennessee State and Fisk and Meharry. But anyway, so it hit me. So I called my mom and I was crying because I was remembering being in the second grade and being 7 years old, and my teacher, Mrs. Starks, telling me, it's okay, you're gonna have your books in bookstores one day. And like, that's today, that's here, that's happening. So it has been a really long journey, and I'm trying not to get choked up because I don't want anybody to see me. But
It's your pub day. You're allowed to get choked up.
yeah, but I feel like now I'm having all the reactions that people were expecting me to be having like 6, 5, 4, 3, 2 months ago, and
Yeah.
It's been really overwhelming, but I'm very grateful and just like, I can't believe I'm here. I can't believe it.
We're gonna get into like the themes of the book a little bit more. I don't want to get into too much because I don't want to spoil anything. So I'm gonna ask you up top a little bit more about like process and about like how we get to this point. So talk to me about your journey to publication, because people always want to hear that story, right? It's like, well, how did this happen for you? How'd you get the idea? How do you sell a collection of essays?
Wow. So in January 2017, I moved to New York for the BuzzFeed Emerging Writers Fellowship Program, which was about learning how to write about pop culture, focus and sharpen culture writing, particularly online. And I guess it's about 2002, maybe, I have been writing blogs, like just random blogs. It's like writing was always coming out of me, even when I was being an administrative assistant, even when I was teaching, even when I was doing something else. writing was just a way for me to express myself. And so once I started blogging, it was a way for me to talk about my life and whatever. So between the blogging and then the fellowship with culture writing and writing personal essays online and things like that, I was like, oh, maybe people like hearing what I have to say or reading what I have to say, and maybe they feel connected to it. One of the things that I always say is that poetry is my first love, and I was a confessional poet, so I was always writing, all the I and me poetry about, stuff. Not necessarily my stories, but always in first person. So I'm used to sharing or oversharing, and I've had many people. Oh, sorry, someone's telling me there's a sound. Wait, can I hold on?
Yeah, no problem.
I wonder, is this a little better? I had to turn my fan off. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Oh yeah.
So people always have told me I share too much of my life or whatever online, and I don't know. I was just always used to talking about myself so that other people could feel comfortable talking about themselves, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so fellowship, then Bad Feminist came out. I was reading Meaty by Samantha Irby, Mindy Kaling's books that she started to write. And although I am
Mm-hmm.
nowhere near anything that they were writing, but it just made me feel like, okay, I can fall into my own language here, and maybe people want to hear what Black women and other women of color have to say, that is not a how-to book. That was a very real concern for me. I didn't want anyone to think I was trying to tell them how to live. I didn't want anyone
Mm-hmm.
to think I was trying to tell them this is the one way you should go, because that's part of what I talk about in the book. I tried to follow the one way people kept telling me to go, and it did not work, and I was miserable for it. So yeah, so blogging, the fellowship, Roxane Gay, Samantha Irby, Mindy Kaling, all the like humorous essay collections by Black women and other women of color, they kind of gave me, I don't want to say they gave me permission, but they made me realize there is an audience for this that can live offline, and I don't necessarily have to have a blog anymore. That was a really winding answer. I'm sorry.
No, I love that answer. I think that was a really thorough answer. I liked it.
Thank you.
Following your career for as long as I have, one of the things that I notice about you as a writer is that you can write anything in any genre. It seems like you have this ability to write in different genres in your voice. So there's no, in my opinion, persona in terms of like when you switch genres. It's very clearly Nichole Perkins. If you hear squeaks, I'm sorry, that's Astro with his toys that he, for some reason right now, will not put down. But one of the things that I kept thinking is, why a collection of essays first? Like, if you had come out with a romance novel, if somebody told me the first thing that like I'm getting from you on this level, and I mean, you've written a poetry book, but I'm thinking about this next project, if it had been a movie that you had written, like none of that would have surprised me. An essay collection didn't surprise me. But I am wondering, like, what was it for you that was like, that's my next right step, that's my next project?
I really don't know. There is a project that I have been collecting books for research on for years. I've had the idea for it literally since high school. That's
Ooh.
what I wanted my big major publishing project to be, but the essays just kept saying, no, write me, write me, write me. And so I just like went with it, and I was talking to my agent, and we were getting, we got really good feedback the first time we sent out the proposal. But I think people just were kind of confused, and they didn't want to take a chance on an essay collection as opposed to a straightforward memoir.
Right.
Because I was getting told nobody reads essays, even though I was sitting up here looking at Bad Feminist and all
Right.
of Samantha Irby's shit hit bestseller lists constantly.
Right.
So, it's interesting to see what you're told and what you see, right?
Mhm.
Anyway, so I really don't know why my cat. I really don't know why I felt like I needed to write the essays first. But the project that I hope to get out, like I said, that I've been collecting books for on research and kind of like outlining and doing a little bit, that is fiction. That is fiction. And I also have the romance novel stuff that's definitely on my list. I've got my notepad on my phone full of scenes already. So those things are coming, but I just, every time I sat down to write, I was writing about the stuff from my childhood and upbringing.
Mm.
Yes, so, I'm sorry, someone asked what was the cat's name. I guess she was walking around behind me. Her name is
She
Calliope.
was. She was. I was gonna tell you, but you were giving me a beautiful answer. I couldn't do that to you. One of the things that was really tough for me, as I started to like promo my book, was this question about how my family felt about my writing.
Mhm.
Because obviously, like, I share things that other people would sometimes hesitate to share for their own reasons that just aren't my reasons. And I'm wondering, with a book like this, are you do you feel prepared to answer that question over and over again about how your family has reacted to the book?
Um, I am not prepared to answer it repeatedly, because I feel like I'm just going to say the same thing over and over again, which is
Right.
my mom and my sister have read it in pieces,
Hmm.
because some of the stuff, like there's a chapter on my brother that they haven't read because it's too sensitive and emotional for them. Like we're all very protective
Hmm.
of my brother. And so when we talk about him or when we think about what he's been through, it it just chokes us up. Or think about the ways that he may be mistreated out in the world. It chokes us up. And I cried while writing that chapter. And one of my friends who was a beta reader, she actually was the one who pushed me to write it because it was missing, from the book. But so they've read parts of it, and I told my mom, I was like, look, don't ask me, don't ask me about anything of the sex stuff. Don't ask me about anything else you may read that you have questions about. And that I was thinking about, like her realizing that I smoke weed, because that is not something that we talk about. And my mom is very much a, she still calls it dope. And uh, I got her using CBD products for her arthritis and stuff. And so she allows herself to use that. She actually, that works for her. But whenever she runs out, she's like, can you get me some more of that dope lotion? And I'm like, it's not dope. It's not dope. But yeah, and I'm going to send a book to my father, and that was something that I didn't realize was still so threaded through the book until I think I was reading it for the audiobook, when I was realizing just how much of trying to come to terms with my father and our relationship was threaded in the book, even though I consciously did not write a chapter dedicated strictly to him. So those things are hard, and I'm not looking forward to him reading it and um, asking me about it, because he's a writer. He is one of those raisins dried up because the dream deferred kind of writers. And I guess that's where I got it from, and that's I don't know. So we'll see how that goes. And I don't, I think my other extended family they'll buy the book to be polite and supportive. I don't necessarily know that they'll sit there and read it unless someone points them to a specific a specific section to read, but I really, all of that is something else that I had to deal with coming from being a confessional writer and telling my story and realizing all of my stories are not mine alone. There are other people involved, and how much can I share of their stories? How much of their stories is relevant, and how much can I say without betrayal or without, just telling too much business that's not mine to tell. So some people will probably argue that I still told too much of other people's business in the book, but yeah, I mean, you just gotta put it out there, and then I guess deal with it a little later. I think the easiest way for us to kind of think about that now is the way that we may find ourselves in somebody's phone video. Now, even just walking down the street, and we may end up in someone's TikTok or, whatever, their little Instagram reel or something like that. And we didn't necessarily give permission for that and didn't necessarily want to be a part of that, but you're a part of somebody else's story one way or another. And it's just something that we all have to deal with.
Yeah, we hate dealing with it, but we're gonna have to deal with it
Yeah.
at some point. Um, I want to remind all of our lovely audience members that if you have questions, you can go ahead and put them in the Q&A box, because at a certain point, we're going to get to your questions and you'll be able to ask Nichole all of your direct goodies. It's only going to be another like 5 minutes, maybe, until we get to your questions. So don't think it's going to be forever. I promise that it won't be. We just need just a few more of my questions, just a couple more of my questions. One of the things I feel like you write about really well is this hesitancy to share or experience too much joy with another person or too much pain. And sort of trying to like stay away from those areas in a certain place and like be in places where you feel safe emotionally. What does it cost you to share and talk about and write about these moments of great joy and great pain in this collection?
One of the reasons that I have been feeling really numb was this is probably the most vulnerable I've ever been in
Mm,
my writing, even though I write a lot of vulnerable things and I share a lot about my life. But now it's not anything that I can delete or hide, or I can't go private on. It's out there in books and people can pull it up, on their Kindles or audiobook app or whatever, and go back and assess it. So I've been very, very concerned that I have been too vulnerable and shared too much of myself, that something that someone is going to use against me, because
mm,
that has been my experience of opening up and sharing my heart, or opening up and sharing my dreams, and someone is putting me down or telling me I'm doing it wrong, or they're telling me the reason that I want to do something is not the real reason, that they know me better than I
mm,
know myself. So
mm.
those are the things that really bother me. And it is, it costs me a lot, because I feel like I don't know how to be in any type of relationship anymore, whether it's a
Mm,
friend or as a lover or just whatever, because I'm just always very guarded now, even
mhm.
even in the midst of oversharing. Because sex, I feel like sex is nothing. I can share sex,
Right,
like whatever.
right.
But talking to you about that moment when I was in the first grade and the little white girl Ellie didn't invite me to her uh, slumber party, where she invited everybody else in the class, she didn't invite me, and like looked me dead in my face and was just like, "Oh no, you're not invited." And then the next day was still asking me for like my homework so she could copy. I can't
Mhm,
talk about that. Like the fact that I can still remember that moment from when I was like 6 or 7 years old, and what that meant. Um, to be rejected while being used, that
right.
seems to have been like a pattern in my life. Like,
Mhm,
no, we can't give you this writer job, but we love your tweets, so we're going to make a whole article about all of your tweets.
mm. Oh,
um,
tell them about it.
so that kind of stuff, it just seems like it's been something that has, I think maybe, just a lot of people, particularly Black women, because that's where I can talk about that from and where my friends talk about that from. So I just learned to hide. So I have a lot of really goofy, silly ideas that I would love to tweet out. And now I can't, because I have learned my lesson. I have also learned what it means when people want to compete with me for something that I didn't know that we were in a competition. I didn't like there's room for everybody in a lot of things. And anyway, so it's cost me a lot both to share myself and not be acknowledged or properly compensated or properly respected for that. It also has cost me a lot to hide myself because um, just like on a romantic level, I will be very kind of, I don't know the word. I would be a little distant from the men that I'm seeing and dating. I don't really like talking about myself beyond a very superficial thing. And then when I start to feel like, okay, he feels safe now, maybe I can share this part of myself. And then I open up and then he disappears. That proves to me that I should not be opening up, that I can't let those walls down. Um, so that I don't know the right balance right now of being soft but guarded.
Mm. Soft with boundaries, maybe.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, I
Maybe.
like that. I like that.
Maybe.
I have boundaries. I have really good boundaries now, and sometimes maybe they're too good, I think. Um,
Sometimes. One of the things that helps me sometimes is thinking like with people in general, because I can be deeply mistrustful. And it's not really mistrustful that people will do something to me. It's the same. It's mistrustful that they just won't like me. It's
mhm,
like, even of them, it's like they think they'll like me, but it's like, no, you won't. Like, trust me, you're not gonna like me.
mhm,
And then when I feel like someone doesn't like me, then I'm like, see, that's the proof that I'm unlikable, that you can't like me. And I realized not too long ago that my problem really wasn't that like I didn't trust other people to like me. It was that I didn't trust myself to know that someone didn't like me and still like myself. I
mm,
was scared that if they didn't like me, it would damage how I felt about myself, and I couldn't afford that. So now I'm much more, and it's not everybody, it's just people when I like them. If I
yeah,
don't know you, I don't care if you like me.
yeah.
But, I don't know. That's helping me a little bit. I got one more question
Okay.
for you. Um, what is your personal definition of love?
My personal definition of love is feeling safe and jolly. Like you just amuse me. You make me smile. I don't know, like when I think of you, those first rush of thoughts are like really good and like funny and warm and cozy, I guess. So I feel safe. I feel like I can laugh with you. I feel like I can share the really goofy, nerdy part of me because I don't think people really know how nerdy I can get on stuff. And it's not to say that I'm not a geek or anything like that. Like I'm whatever, but like when I'm very when I'm very passionate about something,
Mm.
I just go off on it. And uh I don't know, like so I think some people saw that when I would talk, on Thursday Kit when I would get really hype about what I was talking about and my accent would come out and I'd just be like talking a mile a minute because I am an introverted person and I don't necessarily talk a lot until, I've let you in, right?
Mhm.
But yeah, so if I feel like I can talk a lot with you, that's a good that I feel love. Yeah.
I miss hearing your voice on First Aid Kit. But I'm so glad that I got to read this book. I'm so glad that you had time to write this book, because I think that it's going to be that book for a really long time, that when you walk into somebody's house and you see it on the shelf, you know that you're in the right house. You know that you're in the right place. So thank you for that. I also want to thank you for the lovely box of goodies that got sent out. I am deeply satisfied with the contents of mine personally. I just want to.
Thank you. I'm so happy, because that's really, people often want to figure out like, what's my mission in life? What, whatever. And I am not a Pollyanna. I am not a toxic positivity person where positive vibes only. I am not that person, but I just want people to feel good. I want people to have some moment in their day, 5 minutes, even if that's it, of their day, where they just fucking feel good. And if that means taking a personal massager and having a little time out, getting to know yourself, then that's what it is. If it is watching a terrible movie because an actor in it looks good and that's it, do that shit. Like, I just want everybody to have a moment where they feel good about themselves or about the day or about their lives, and they just sit in it for a little bit, because we have this thing where we can only feel like we can feel good as a reward. We have to suffer first. We have to be miserable first. We have to hate ourselves first, and then we can love ourselves. And what if you just like loving yourself the whole time you've been alive?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
What if that's it? What if you just eat the fucking piece of cake and don't worry about, oh, I gotta work this off later, or oh, this is gonna give me gas. Fuck it. You're gonna have gas because you're alive. Okay, just eat the cake. Enjoy.
We gotta stop letting this white supremacist capitalist structure teach us that we gotta earn feeling good. It's messed up. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Got a couple questions I want to get to for your audience members. First of all, this is an easy one. Did you narrate the audiobook as well?
Yes, I did. I narrated the audiobook. I was nervous. I was obviously Thursday Kid, I was reading Drabbles, but this is the first time that I ever had such a substantial piece of work to read, and I was nervous, but my engineer at Hachette Audio was great, and he was very supportive in directing me and stuff like that. And it went so well that I only had 2 pickups afterwards, meaning I only had 2 little things I had to go back and like correct.
That's amazing.
Yes. So if anybody wants me to read their book, let me know. No, but yes, I read the audiobook, and there is a sample preview of the chapter called Princess Girl, on my podcast called This Is Good For You. It came out today. It's about a 6-minute excerpt. So if you want to check that out to just hear my dulcet tones, you're very welcome to.
I love that. I love it. Next, if you could have Prince read any one of the essays from this collection, which would it be? And what do you think he'd say?
Oh my God. Oh my gosh. I would want, geez Louise.
I got you flustered.
Yeah. Okay, so I think I would want him, honestly. Okay, so like original Prince, like early Prince, I would want him to read The Night I Took Shrooms, that chapter. And I think he would laugh a little bit at it and shake his head and just be like, girl, what's wrong with you? I think he would do that. Later in life, Prince, once he was a little bit more devout and more focused on like his religion, I think I would have him read I Love Niles Crane, because he was a television watcher. He liked really good quality, well, he liked good TV. So I would have him read that, and then I would, if he did not watch Frasier, I would give him a list of episodes to watch, and then we could bond over that, and then maybe he would marry me.
That's the way I see it going personally. I'm gonna ask one more before we go. I'm sorry, guys, but we're running out of time a little bit. How will you take a breath and time for yourself after the push following Pub Day?
So I have been trying to figure that out, because that was another thing that I was getting a little stressed about, because people were like, how are you going to celebrate? You know, again, just being really excited for me in a way that I wasn't feeling. And I don't have any celebration plans necessarily. Like when we finish here, I'm going to take all of this off and just, I got a cold drink in the freezer right now, getting a little slushy. So I'm gonna drink my cold drink and just chill out. But, you know, maybe this weekend I might go out for dinner or something, but I am trying to plan a trip, and I'm trying to figure out what would be the best trip for me, considering the circumstances of the world right now and everything that's going on. So that's my ultimate. That's what I would really like to do, is take a trip. But if I can't take a trip, then I'm probably going to buy myself a nice, expensive leather purse, because I did not buy one. I love purses. I love really good leather purses, and I did not buy one all of 2020 because where was I going to go?
Right.
But that's it. So after, I think, like the first week of September, I'll have a little time to myself to kind of relax and figure out what's next. And then some things pick back up in October and November. So this is not the last that you'll hear from me in the book. I'll be in some book festivals in October. November is the Audacious Book Club stuff. And then I don't know what's happening in December, but I think there's something happening in December. I can't remember right now, but I'll be around. So we're gonna ride this out for the rest of 2021.
Good. I want everybody, if you haven't already gotten this book, all I want you to do is stop playing yourself. I don't want you to do nothing extra. I just want you to stop playing yourself and get Sometimes I Trip on How Happy We Can Be. This is a wonderful book. Nichole, you did an amazing job on this book. I know your readers are going to love it. All the thirst buckets that you converted into readers are going to love it. It's going to be amazing. Thank you so much for having me. This has been a blast. I can't wait to watch everything that happens for you next.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited. I loved your book. I can't wait to see what you do next. I'm not gonna ask, but I'm really grateful. I'm grateful to you, grateful to Books Are Magic, Michael, everybody in the chat. I appreciate you so much. Thank you.